So let's look at the decks. We have Lerio competing against Neverhood, two renowned deck builders. Let's see what Lerio took first. Lerio is playing 4 decks, bringing 4 decks, one of them will be banned. First is Line Pockets with King of Beggars and Device card. Archerontia and Ixora are both there. So you've seen this deck in action last season, most likely. Can bring an insane amount of points if your Vice cards are staying on the board. Archerontia was nerfed to Vice 12. It's less probable for you to trigger it multiple times per turn nowadays. Then we see that Lerio opts into playing Carapace Relicts, Golden Necker deck. It's a bit risky choice of his to bring Curse of Corruption. Of course, you can usually set it up that you are playing this before playing your Riptide and everything. But sometimes it's risky. But yeah, it's Necromancer Tome as the sole artifact in the deck. Trying to bring out second copies of your bronzes from the graveyard. And Self-Eater is the star of this deck, buffing self by the base power by 1 for each relic you play. Then we see Battle Stations Assimilate with interesting choice of Glorious Hunt, hunting for maybe that immune solve from Skellige. Among other things, it's good against Lyrics. Lerio playing against Lyrics. Yeah, there we go. Glorious Hunt against all base power units. And Assimilate we've seen multiple times. It doesn't have to play like Bronze Engines. There is a Mage Torture, but overall it's Artot. Not even Braten, so not even correct to call it a full Assimilate. But it does things like Obsidian Mirror, Imperial Diplomacy, Control, create. And the last deck is Warriors Non-Devotion with tall bodies. So Relio named this deck, or one of its versions, Skellige Relicts. And there we see tall bodies, Warriors, some raid cards, Great Swords with Megascopes, 3 Meteor Shower for that leader, so Great Swords, Afros. So this is Lerio's setup for the match. And now let's look at Neverhood's decks. Neverhood is bringing Pincer Maneuver with Erland, but this is not a Shoop version that was played a lot recently. It is playing some Order units like Carabalista, Lyrian, Arbalest, Onager, Reinforced Ballistas, and there is of course Siege in this deck, so non-Shoop version with a bunch of 5s, but also multiple 4s that can be utilized with Mutagenerator as well. You have still Rune Mage because you can proc Mutagenerator twice. So this is Siege Erland. Moving on, it's Devotion Frost. You know, almost all Wild Hunt units go in there, no point at stopping for those, but there is a Lord Reptide for some extra control, and Toad Prince. Well, if we look at the NR list that we've just seen, Onager is at 4 power, Arbalest, so you can find targets in multiple games against multiple factions with that. But overall, it's a Frost deck that has now 1 extra control outside of Imlerith's Wrath with Riptide. Then it's well, Onslaught, so you have to call it pirates, but looking at it, it's mostly ships. And even then, it's just a lot of control in one deck. And the last deck is Elves with Heist and Angus, Vernocel, Vanadine, a lot of targets that you can replay. So this is the lineup. Okay, so we see Neverhood versus Lerio, Lerio versus Neverhood, where the big boy Skellige is banned from Lerio's lineup and no Frost for Neverhood. So that's those are the bans. And Lerio is on blue coin, according to this. So sorry, there was some mishap with the client. We have Lerio on top playing Relicts on blue coin versus Neverhood. This is game 1 of the series. We managed to fix the client somewhat, but sadly it doesn't show you the leader abilities, leader charges. It's just one of the peculiarities of that. So we see that Lerio got his operator on Self-Eater already developed. So he will be trying to get those relics going to activate the graveyard later on for his Necromancer Tome. What it is for Neverhood. He has Maxi has Squirrel as those like convenient tools everyone is adding to their decks. But also some control cards, and we see that the first Self-Eater that was not buffed is going to the graveyard after collaboration between Gutting Slash and the Weather Effect. Lerio has Fiend, has Ratcatcheress among the cards that he can play into this round. He of course can click. Opts out to stock everything on one row here, taking 1 point of damage. But yeah, Neverhood's hand, you kinda don't want to play the ship, Terror of the Seas early. You cannot play Armor Smith. Also, Armor Smith seen play even after nerf. Some people still believe in the card. That's go. That's go for the card. Sometimes you just see that cards go away immediately after like a slight nerf. Or maybe that's a big nerf, who knows. Okay, so we see Maxi being played. We see that Lerio is using his stratagem here. And now he has a decent lead here, considering Neverhood has quite a few cards that play for slow tempo. Lerio has Unicorn and Chironex available if he wants to spend Royal Decree later on. Has Catcheress, Lord Triptide, who is gaining armor only if you have might, so that's not that easy to achieve at the moment. And we see that Armor Smith, well, this is a full provision card, so sometimes you can just spend it, and you don't have to wait till the end of round 3 to slam it for potentially 10-15 points. You can just play it as a 6 for 4. And we see Lerio opting for a pass, and the dog is jumping out from the deck, increasing the gap in points. So Neverhood needs 15 points here. Justiana is, well, with 3 armor only. It's very pre-recorded because we don't see leader abilities. Lerio is playing Carapace and Neverhood is playing Onslaught. So Neverhood gonna decide how he closes the gap. So Justiana is only 9-10 points, wouldn't be enough. Goes for Sova. That would require a leader charge, but only one, and well, that solver most likely was eating a Curse of Corruption anyway, so maybe a card to give away already. Lerio developed 3 bronzes into his graveyard to combine with Necromancer Tome. Finds Golden Necker, which is pretty decent for him. Finds well, Fiend and Gunkian, bronzes that are already developed in the graveyard, so that you can take full advantage of your artifact. Neverhood is probably thinking about that squirrel and eating the biggest relic in the graveyard. The Self-Eater at 8 power is probably not living long. And well, yeah, I'd expect that what goes. There is another Self-Eater though. And welcome everyone who is just joining. We are watching a show match between Lerio, who is on top side of the screen, and Neverhood, who is at the bottom. We had some problems with tournament platform, so that's how we are watching this this one. Hopefully next game we are getting into it with all the overlay activated. Neverhood played Squirrel for carryover, denying some graveyard points for Lerio, and now we see the Kyre Seren. Oh, Kyre Trollde, sorry, I mixed up my Kyres. There are quite a few in the game now. Okay, so that's second Fiend. Out for Lerio, but yeah, playing for 8 points. On Lerio's side, let's see what Neverhood decides to go. He is losing his card advantage here, or he's not keeping his card. So, okay, Delirium for damage, and we see that Red catches his ability. -1 that damages 8/1 when it takes damage, erases it from the board. So Lerio doesn't want to play a Golden Necker here, so goes for the bronzes at the moment. He has a Unicorn combo already in hand,
no worries,
but keeps it for now and goes for the Incubus on Self-Eater that he created in Neverhood's graveyard by playing Operator round 1. But those Self-Eaters cannot really survive for long, getting just wiped. They are getting attacked in graveyard, they are attacked on the board. There is a relic pocket on the board, so if you want, you can play Gunkian. But all those bronzes played here mean that there are less points on Necromancer's Tome. But maybe at one point you decide that you are not really getting good value on your Tome anyway. You'd always want to trade Tome with Heatwave if you have other means of creating points. Yustiana drops and well, deals 7 damage. So that Lord Riptide that is getting played for some control tools sadly is unable to gain any more armor, since might condition cannot be fulfilled with all the damage Skellige produces. If I'm not mistaken, Neverhood still has 1 leader charge of Onslaught. Lerio is in a position of 2 leader charges, if I'm not mistaken, but that might have slipped and slipped through and I didn't notice it. But I think he only used 1 leader charge on the first self-eater. So Gankian goes. Well, Lerio is not ahead here, but he's not using leader charges. No pressing necessity for him to win uneven. His hand is stacked. Although Triptide, of course, doesn't achieve much, but still plays for his points, dealing 7 damage on Justiana. Basically erasing her from the board. So pass was offered, but Neverhood has not taken one. Plays the totem. Has Heatwave playing for 9 points. Okay. And gets rewarded for continuation on this push. Gets Unicorn combo. Kyronex is killing one of the cultists. This definitely gets Lerio ahead. He finds Brewers at 6 tempo play. Nothing to write home about. And sadly for Lerio, he's not getting any engine value here. He's just playing. He is just playing cards for face value mostly. So Neverhood has Heatwave playing for 9, as Leader Charge has Car Troll the Click. So this is gonna be quite influential as well. Well, not overly influential, but it will play for extra points. So let's see if Lerio opts into playing a Bruce and 1 leader charge. Let's see what Neverhood decides, because he can potentially feel that Golden Necker is there. He already got multiple cards out of Lerio, gold cards, but yeah, Lerio leads with Lord Triptide instead. So if Lerio is not playing Golden Necker, he can only produce 12 points, taking him at 43, so Neverhood kinda needs 18 point play here. And 9, 12, I think he's like 2 points short to get the to force the Golden Necker out. So who you got in this position, guys? Who do you think has the edge? And we see the pass coming through, so Lerio manages to preserve Golden Necker. Let's see what are the draws. We know that Neverhood has Onero coming back. So yeah, since Neverhood didn't take a chance on the last card, and well, apparently it wasn't enough unless I made a big mistake. He finds Swolblood and gets the flexibility of Oneromancy, so Axel is there. So cannot ask for much better hand. No golds were missed outside of Tempest. And for Lerio, there is a problem of COC going out from this Golden Necker, and you kind of want Golden Necker played early. That's what I mentioned at the start of the series. That's what I mentioned at the start of the series, that COC, especially with Golden Necker in the equation, if you don't have it in your hand, you only can mitigate its effect for so long. We see Lerio play a leader charge here as well. Interesting. So it can be just answered with the heat wave here. Relics are sometimes getting big units, but usually they are not producing like 20-point targets for that heat wave. It makes for a bait so that Necromancer's Tome survives. But I'm not certain with this hand how many procs of Necromancer's Tome is there other possible. So we see that Lerio still once again has to play proactively. Whatever he is playing from Golden Necker is getting COC'd immediately. So we see Incubus land here. Incubus bringing out the relic created by Lerio himself and bringing out Self-Eater. But with Kyle Troll there present on the board, that Self-Eater is not living for long unless Neverhood senses that the COC problem is real. Okay. So still tallest unit belongs to Lerio. He cannot teleport Incubus as well, and that spells problems. For him, he also has the boost crown. So yeah, here we are witnessing it. Golden Necker goes. There is no relic to bring out of, from the graveyard. So he only has 4 provision targets here. Meaning that yeah, he has to bring Fiend out, burn the Fiend, and now we have the book landing and doing not much. You want your Incubus to survive, the non-doomed one, because then you can play it for points. But you also do not have another Incubus anywhere present in the graveyard, so very awkward round for Lerio, but that's why Neverhood was pushing. There is still leader charge in play, if I'm not mistaken, for Lerio. I don't think I can see, yeah, the leader charges used. So look at this insane teleportation value. It's completely broken. Are we seeing Crown played first, playing for boost on the doomed copy? Or is... yeah. That's what happens, but that Golden Necker was really disastrous. And Neverhood has a Neuromancy. Lerio knows that most likely, because that's the second copy of a Neuromancy. And Axel is playing for 11 points here, giving Neverhood enough separation, right? Since there is nothing coming from the Necromancer's book and Lerio can only bring an 8 out. Yes. No secret necromancer tome triggers means that Neverhood wins game 1 by 12 points. So let me change the score. Neverhood gets 1. And hopefully this game we are getting platform to cooperate and we see leader charges and player names. Sorry for that, but yeah, Neverhood and others. And so far we see usernames, that's promising. Lerio is on red coin now, on top, and Neverhood is at the bottom side of the screen playing Erland Siege. Okay, so Neverhood is has pincer maneuver leader, but he already managed to find his siege, temple, and Erland, which are welcomed additions. Well, some of them. You probably don't want Erland here, but what I'm referring to is the talent of getting some of the cards. He has double Siege Master in hand as well, which is looking promising. Lerio gets his Gwint on the last mulligan.
I'm an officer and a gentleman.
So he can sort his deck out by playing Gwint now. That's why he also mulliganed Artot. He was... he will be the top card after Gwint, and we see the mighty glorious hunt. The ballista might be only 3 power, but it's only competing with siege masters on the board, and it was a pretty nice target to remove from the board. Well, you might be happier later on with Erland played on the empty board, but probability of that is pretty low in open decklist matches. So you want your hunt value immediately. So leader charge for mutant generator. In a mutant generator deck, it's something that you want to play. Is it one of the onagers going into the deck? Yes, it is. And mutant generator lands for 0 tempo, but amounts of carryover. This card is capable of producing. Those amounts are ridiculous. Okay, so this is Torres hunting for good cards in Neverhood's deck. Or alternatively just going for big points by picking low cost units and buffing itself close to 20 points. Let's see. What Lerio is opting for here. Probably takes Carabalista, or at least one Carabalista. And, well, the roping was intense. Let's see what was marked. Unsafe, Siege Support, and Onager. Okay, so those are 3 targets that are created in Lerio's deck now. We've seen that Neverhood is playing Curse Knight, a pretty decent card to answer False City with. Something to look forward to. That's Lerio clicking Torres and removing some things out of his deck and sorting it out now. By the provision with Artot going on top, and now let's see the roll on Dansborg Runestone. Hopefully, maybe you go for points and Zoria Runestone. Yeah, sadly we see that. No line taken for the Kingslayer because Kingslayer is 6 provisions and doesn't provide you with the carryover. Instead, from Zorias, Syntrian Spellweaver at 5 provision was created, no synergy with mages, since there are none in the deck, but plays for 5 points and is an order unit, so Arbalist is... Oh, Arbalist would have been happy, the second Arbalist would have been happy later on with that as well. Turn Mage getting played means that it gets Spine on self, so that Artot later on is capable of creating that. Keeping your Artot targets white is pretty welcome. Temple from the Temple is non-existent, but let's see, not the greatest pulls. You can take I don't know, what was it, Fall Test? I cannot, well, I won't check. Hanseld with Siege is not bad. Double Hanseld might be a bit too much. So we see Kian was taken from the first pool, then we see that Hanseld and War Elephant were played or picked. Temple... Nah. Temple of Military was played quite late into the round, so some points from it were lost, but Neverhood can just opt into clicking it in the next round instead. So Lerio passes, 13-point gap, some leader unit orders unused on the board means that it's actually less. But Onager is playing for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ah, okay. Front row Onager is solving it. So Onager is pinging for each order used. And yeah, this Temple of Military is left unclicked. Neverhood goes down a card, but creates quite a few points of carryover for the next round. Or next rounds, let's see what he decides to do. He has only one machine for that siege. He can, of course, opt into clicking the temple and take in one of the siege engines if he decides to. To play it out, we see False City getting... Oh yeah, you can go for Hanseld instead. And he has a leader charge, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so clicks for temple. And brings 12 pointers and seas out of the deck. Sending boiling oil? No. I think he might be expecting that False City is not getting played, so he has no reason to keep his Cursed Knight. And we see, even a card down, he goes for it. He goes for the siege play. Lerio, of course, after playing Calvit, has pretty good hand. And also has battle stations into double Nausicaa. Not sure how happy he is spending both of those, but if your other options are playing golds, maybe you are okay with it. So leader charge for Hanseld, we talked about that. Hanseld is basically a siege engine on a stick as well, so extra points coming from it. And we see War Elephant going front row between two soldiers. one click of this boosts elephant by 8 at the moment if the crew pocket is surviving. Hanseld, and of course placed next to it, also activates the ability of Hanseld to boost self by the cooldown reduction. He cannot really get a second machine next to it outside of this battering ram, so it's not your full-on siege deck.
Now!
So Ansei is just going for it and eliminating the king from the board. So Elephanto sadly is not crewed anymore, but it still has one soldier next to it as a target. So there is a bombardment ready to go. There is a trigger for that in Carabalista. There is unclicked battering ram. So quite a few points coming up for Neverhood if he decides to do it now. And indeed he goes for that. Well, some of those pings from battering ram and bombardment go for armor. So a couple of points sadly lost, or not lost, but absorbed. But the point gap is still pretty decent, and we see that Lerio for now decides to play bronzes, as this is an engine and he knows more or less what's on top after Calvit, so Imperial Marine choice was a correct one. I would assume that it's one of those. At 5 provisions, False City didn't land on the top deck after the mulligan. And we see that Neverhood is not stopping here. So, engine removed. There is a dual target at 10 power for Neverhood for the next turn. Or not next turn, if you're going for it, there is Erland. Another bronze lands. Nausicaa army is here, and Lerio also commits the leader on reinforced tribulation. He is 2 cards up at the moment, and even against Erland, who's sucking all the boost from cards, might be feeling okay having those goals, but at the same time the Nausicaas are already out, so it might be a bit problematic. And the Neverhood is taking a round loss, going 2 cards down into the last one. Yeah, so mulligans. Lerio should be pretty happy with his hand. Why did he pass? Well, I guess he just wants to put all the points. Yeah, we see Ansei's mulligan. He wants to put all the points onto this Erland and play uninteractively. Let's see how it goes. Another Marine. Well, here it was a guessing game and Lerio lost the bet. Didn't pick the top card, but it was quite random there at 4 provisions. We know that, yeah, Rune Mage was marked. That's probably making for the best option. It could have been kept for the prestigious Monster Runestone into the Predatory Dive. But Lerio decided not to go for that line. Instead he gets some pretty subpar cards. I guess, yeah, 6 points on the ship ballista was the best. Mage was only playing for 5 because there are no shields. Neverhood with the red of it, of course, gets options at taking and says out of his deck if necessary, if he feels like it. But the plan might be just pressing Erland. There is Stefan. There is Vilgefortz. But yeah, we also see that those ship ballistas, famous ship ballistas that got featured recently in even a competitive deck that got to 2550 by Imagawa, and I'm not sure where he stopped his climb. But yeah, this time Nilfgaard is running those. And yeah, it's a cute synergy of Slave Driver hitting armor and producing another copy of the Order unit.
Long live me!
But yeah, so Neverhood kinda has to, doesn't have to, but feels like answering one of those. So Onager is proccing Assimilate here. It has light synergy with Ship Ballista. I don't think there is any way for Lerio to snipe Erland. Rune Mage into Predatory Dive was the only one I can think of that was doing it easily. This looks like a cool setup. And yeah, Ship Ballista is doing the damage, but it can be increased after the coup on one of the units, combining it with the Order. I know that the Predatory Dive, it was the only option if Neverhood didn't play around that. Other than that, yeah, I don't think Nilfgaard has an easy way of communicating with, interacting with immune Erland. Yes, Magna. Oh yeah, and Sace is being taken out of the deck, making it an obvious Vilgefortz target. 25 point gap. Vilgi is playing for like 15 or even less. So there are 6s, so there is a 3 in the deck, but With Onager, it actually, yeah, doesn't really matter if it was a 4-point pull or 3-point pull or 6-point pull. So Lerio takes the... So Lerio on blue coin going for Relicts again, this time against Siege. This time his deck once again is facing a problem of being unable potentially to develop engines on board since they're gonna be pinged. Last time it was pirates and damage cards. This time around it's siege engines that are opposing his relicts. He has COC in hand, so that might be less awkward. And of course against Erland, if you have last say, you're most likely guaranteed to get value. Finds Dock on the last mulligan, but he has Curse Scroll. And yeah, a talent of getting Operator and Self-Eater in the opening hand is real, so we've seen that. But Boiling Oil answers the Self-Eater immediately, so no leader charge was used here and the oil finds its full value. Now I don't believe there is a reason, there is no second oil, so no leader charge is spent. And we see Neverhood going for the mutant generator. No, goes for Temple. Okay. I didn't really look at the amount of mutant generator rocks that he has in his hand. For those of you who are just joining, 1-1 of the best of 5 series between Lerio and Neverhood. And after this match we also have Gandalf versus Magpie. Так что не переключайтесь. После этой серии Magpie играет против Гендальфа. Пока что счет в серии 1-1. Играет до 3 побед. Is it Elephant or is it Shani? And I would assume that this is Priscilla, right? So Priscilla, Demavent, and for Elephant were the picks from the temple. Lerio doesn't know that, so for now it's a guessing game for him. What extra card he has to play around?
It's a pity I can never finish.
So both Self-Eaters played out from hand. We see the Dock shuffled back into the deck and jumping onto the board immediately. The more you play with the Dock, more active it becomes, it looks like. I shouldn't have clicked the statue, now thinking of it. First of all, it fell apart. Second of all, what if it influences the tournament platform? You never know. Alright, so no mutant generator here for Neverhood. Decides that he doesn't have a hand for that. Temple is of course bringing in Sace early on this time around. Don't break the platform, okay. I'll try not to interact with the game board. Leader is being used for Demavent, that extra card created. And let's see what Demavent banishes. There is of course a support for Demavent already on the board. So your first pick is guaranteed because of the siege support. And actually a mutant generator is being played here. There is still a couple of triggers available for it, and Radovid can bring another one out. Sadly, we cannot see what cards were banished, and since we are looking at the action, I'm not gonna waste much time on it. We see that the Self-Eater army is growing, and Witch Apprentice is going on the board as well, so there is a bunch of targets for Necromancer Tome. Well, it's not that easy on the go. Figure out he didn't banish the golds that were created because there is not enough time for Kingdom event. So it might have been Neverhood just banishing cards he's not likely to play later on. So if the game continues for 3 more turns, he's happy. If not, then it's just a question of improving your draws. But if you're banishing units, it's kind of worse for your Erland as well as Mutant Generator. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there are enough 5 provision cards in the deck for now, so he's not really crippling his Mutant Generator. Get over. We see that the crown, one of the crowns is being played, and she frees up 1 space on the front row as well. Lerio is comfortably like 30 points ahead, but with the presence of Prince and Says, you cannot ever be relaxed. The reach is quite big for NR that click Temple for Unsays. So let's see what Royal Decree is being used for, if at all. Well, I would believe that Lerio doesn't want to give Siege deck control. He might, but he knows that the Temple was clicked, and yeah, I highly doubt that. And we see that Royal Decree is being played, and he goes for Unicorn combo, probably claiming the round, since all the Self-Eaters are getting double buffed here. Now, Unsays can carry you through that reach, but that reach shouldn't be almost 60 points. So yeah, quite the commitment from Lerio. It wasn't free, and now he has to battle it out against Siege anyway. But he has Golden Necker in hand. He has his crowns. What he's missing is like bronzes that he would have played combining with that Necromancer Stone. And we see that he is fishing for the bronzes here. Okay, so this time Golden Necker is not letting him down too much because the COC is not jumping out, burning one of his own units. I would expect that it's a bit too crazy for Relicts to expect that they're getting anywhere against 3, 4, 5 pinging engines in a long round. So yeah, we see that Incubus is getting played immediately. Neverhood is offering Lerio a pass. Without leader charge usage, and Lerio is actually happy with that, or maybe not happy, but he takes it anyway. So we've probably seen a Cursed Knight on Self-Beater here, because all the other bronzes, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, are below 6 provisions. No? Okay. He can... There is no reason to split it though. Okay. So no transformation on Self-Eater. I might be in need of assistance from chat to figure out what is the grand plan there, because it's not clicking with me quite easily. No. What the hell? That I was scared for a second. How did it even, like, I pressed random button, it wasn't escape, so we're fine. And okay, let's see, relics with 2.5 control cards versus siege here. What would it be? Can the monsters outgrid the siege that has double onager and full siege unprocced? Okay. The start is good. Golden Necker showing well, a gold card and also double Self-Eaters getting developed because of the ordering. You get to choose your necromancy target, but you actually play it after you play your artifact from Golden Necker, so that synergy is always fun. And this is a deck a lot of people have been enjoying in the past seasons, even when it's not like fully meta. Anseis is taking care of business as usual, removing one of the engines, but there are more to come. Also, after clicking, the teleportation can be used. It's a bit too early probably for teleportation, and yeah, you can develop other engines, but if you really feel like teleporting one of your Self-Eaters, you can do that with a smaller target. It still requires one turn for siege to fully proc and fully set up. Onagers are still not on the board. Carabalista is still there. So it's all a question of can relics just set up well enough. For Lerio, the important point is also Curse of Corruption, of course. This red catchers is growing and growing. And basically next turn is a break point for her. Yeah, so even without the pinks, random pinks from Onager, we get Reinforced Ballista, Siege Master combo to finish off that Self-Eater. But they didn't seem like Lerio's main point of interest anyway. So he has to take a COC here. Unless he wants to rely on... It's also funny that yeah, random pinks didn't hit red catchers. That might have given him a bit more breathing room, but also the witch apprentices were growing quite fast. as you see, for another game, this Lord Riptide is basically playing for removal value only. And yeah, Neverhood basically has Erland on 6 units, not much in terms of carryover, while Lerios Relicts are running away with the game by the looks of it. Although teleportation is not teleporting anything of importance by the look of it. You cannot go for Doom Self-Eater, but you still get points from this Gunkian. And we see the forfeit, and Relicts are winning for Lerio here. Neverhood decides to forfeit. Well, Syndicate for Lerio, yeah, we already see so. Game number 4, Neverhood versus Lerio. Lerio on red coin with his Syndicate with 2 Vice cards, and Neverhood is playing the Erland Mutant Generator again. Mutant Generator already in hand. Rune Mage is something that you want to see round 1 as well. Find Squirrel, which is quite good against the Open Sesame carryover denial. And yeah, the Mutant Generator opener is expected here. Syndicate just starts slowly with developing some units on the board. Neverhood was taking Zoria last time around and goes for that here as well. Wants to find a 5 provision card, finds Landsnacht, that also poses a threat to the Disciple. Okay, yeah, I updated the score already, so it's 2-1 for Lerio. And if Neverhood wins this one, he still has Squirtle faction to get through with. He's playing Elves there. So, depending on how this game goes, we might see, I think, all 6 factions represented here in this show match, which is always a nice sign. So Open Sesame is being developed into the graveyard, but sometimes your plans of safe cracking and stealing are met with a pesky squirrel. But for now there are other priorities, like going to temples in search of high provision cards. I would assume that Gerhard has been taken. Kimbold can be a target, as well as Shani. Order units are present, so Ravan and Kimbold is potentially helping with developing extra engines, if he of course survives. And as the last one, you can always take Defender if you feel like it. So Defender, we see Kimbold and also Philippa trying to either snipe the defenders from Azarjavet or just killing off brawlers or vice cards. That's always a line that you can take. So pretty decent pulls from there, especially considering you can combine Defender and Kimbold. Lerio opts to play this deck with King of Beggars, Jacques. So there is a slight possibility of Acherontia, if it ever survives, pulling out King of Beggars before it was properly triggered out of the deck. Unsay's coming from Temple for 12 points here. Is this a squirrel turn? It is, so no carryover for the Vice cards at the moment. And Neverhood is comfortably ahead here. Lerio might play the Shady Vendor still. Might play, yeah, the Crime card for bigger carryover. Also, if you remember the function of boiling oil, it purifies adjacent units if it serves a dead blow, so we might see some action on Azar Javed if Lerio decides not to spend too much from the candle on defenders. It might be a troubled time for the Scarabs. So Neverhood gets round 1, has 2 good cards already in his hand, searches for more, finds Defender, finds another bronze, no Siege, no Kimbolt, no Philippa, misses Heatwave. Let's see what he decides to do here. Lerio finds a Acherontia. He had the candle, so his opener for 2 is... Oh! That's something that you don't really want to see. Of course, there is a line with Shady Vendors getting Eavesdrop. And shuffling it back. But Neverhood decides that he has enough for taking this game into a long round, or maybe he decides that he doesn't have enough and doesn't want to spend leader charges for fixing his hand, and he'd rather just rely on a long round with his siege. So there is no break in KOB at the moment, but at the same time this KOB is at 12. So you'd need to pay all the tributes possible. Lerio finds Bank, not an optimal tutor, but the best Syndicate can allow itself. So Kimbolt, Heatwave. Heatwave not found means that we won't see Heatwave here. But between Unsay's, Purify, Boiling Oil, Philippa, and Siege with Carabalista on a jar, there is enough damage potentially coming, and especially since it will be hidden behind Defender. So on one hand you want to develop your things fast, on the other hand you cannot just drop Defender without the protection. because most likely you know what happens. It might happen anyway between Philippa and Boiling Oil. There are ways to answer Defender, so let's see what's Lerio's decision here. Is he spending like almost his entire bank? Okay, so both defenders go above 5. Boiling Oil is not doing much here. Combined with the Carabalista ping, of course it's much better. So Kimbolt and Trade Speller going back into the deck. So Neverhood believes that with all the pings he can do that well enough. What's his unit distribution? So Carabalista is at 7 and another Carabalista is 7 as well. He has 6s, he has 5s, and there is a couple of 4s. He'll need to play defenders first, but he wanted all the like siege potential damage already developed on the board. So for now there is no defender. He'll need one. And it might be an unpleasant surprise for Lerio, who has multiple things going for him here. Okay, that's kind of risky. With bombardment and 50-50 on battering ram. We might see an accidental Acherontia vibe here. No promises. Step number 1 achieved. Should play Onager here. Yes. Well, called it. Feels bad, but double 6 on the board was really risky. So there is no Chironte and Exora is still in the deck. Okay, so board set up for Junior, but there is a surprise defender coming in. So first you have to click through that now. And that's a lot of coins spent. There are no open sesames available. Okay, it just goes for the Junior. And I guess he's buffing it with the candle. Wait. Eh? He needs candle clicks. So just spends with Junior here. No Onager is pretty welcomed. And now Kimbolt is also kind of delayed too much, so Kimbolt is not that crazy as it could have been a couple of turns ago. But well, for that he needed defender anyway. Okay, so one of the defenders is deleted here, can be buffed up. Also Lerio gets some coins here, most likely, or just straight up deals with more machines. Let's see. Goes for the bank first. Well, there is a King of Beggars at 9, but no Jacques. Or anything. Gets coins. So it can deal with 2 machines. Defender is still annoying for Neverhood. Has to be dealt with by boiling oil. Kimbolt ended up pretty useless here. Well, still plays for better value than the Cursed Knight. But yeah, that bank, as I mentioned, not the ideal tutor for Syndicate, never has been. The Gimbolt can still be combined with the leader charge, bringing out a machine that can be clicked immediately for order. Let's see how it goes. But yeah, without a Chirontia, it's much harder for Lerio to compete here against that Unsafe. And yeah, I doubt we ever get he's 1 point short for removing Kimbolt as well. So do we see Neverhood going for it immediately? A leader charge for okay, goes for Line Snare, could have been Ballista, doesn't matter much. And okay. On the other hand, Lansneck can be used directly on the Scarab, so it's better than Ballista in that regard. So it opens up the board for Unsafe. There is not much to what you can duel with in terms of toll units, but I still want to duel something better. Bank after being played shuffle, so is there a eavesdrop line that can be taken? Is there somehow Hysteria? No, goes for Mutagen. Mutagen and -2 siege engine, so maybe 1. You don't really. It still pings on the back row, but no, decides to keep it alive.
This world needs witchers, not marauders.
No way to board wipe somehow. Not enough coins, otherwise it would have been. You'd require like double open sesame in the graveyard for that to happen. Raising 23 points is not that trivial. Lerio here.
The fire cleanses. Remove his cowl, then his ears.
And if he expects to get a good Mariel's target, he has enough coins, so he triggers KOB. He'd need for Neverhood to play Unsafe now. Also, Kimbolt's still alive on the board. First time a light unit uses its order each turn. Summon it, but there is no 19-point unit, and I think it's yeah, it's checking after the click. So if you expected it to happen, as I tried in some of my games, sadly it doesn't happen. Okay, so Acherontia not leaving was the deal breaker here, and we have Neverhood taken game 4, so it's a tie now, and we are going into the decider. So game 5 decider, Lerio Syndicate Vice versus Neverhood's Squirtle Elves. That's the title of this last game. Let's see how it goes. Neverhood is playing heist version, so he wants some of his high provision elves surviving. We also see Neverhood not in a possession of Vanadine, as Angus, who buffs all the elven dead eyes for the rest of the game. Lerio's hand looks pretty golden here. Okay, finds a candle. That's another gold, and probably not the gold you want to play in round 1. So he has Disciple that he can open with. He has Oxenford Guard, Shady Vendor, and is playable, but in terms of dealing with elves, he has Junior that can be used on Angus. Hello, welcome for the last game of this series. And we see that Lerio is not shy to use leader charge as well here. Instead of wasting his Oxenford Guard ability, he tried to maximize it, protecting Disciple, but Disciple was pinged by the created elf anyway.
Best commodity in town, I swear it.
So full bank carryover, and Lerio also decides to spend some. His hand is pretty insane here. We are seeing Angus landing, and most likely Junior, or another way of answering it is going to be implemented. Because, yeah, you can also answer it with bloody good fun, dealing damage. And that allows the Junior being carried over for the next round if necessary. This is the beauty of Neophyte. You can immediately click the created copies. And Neverhood goes all in on those. He shall not fail and use all the boxes since he doesn't have Vanadine. There is not much in terms of teleportation. You definitely want to play your Vernacell and Isengrim later on, although if necessary, of course, after flipping all the Neophytes, he can just unleash the power of elves on Lerio already. So let's see what Lerio decides to do here. He can go with the Junior, but okay, with one leader click, he can also deal with a few of those Neophytes. Decides not to. Okay, fair enough. But now, after all the transformations, it's only 4 elves on the board, so not that risky. And yeah, what I meant that is it is impossible to junior the tokens now, because those dead eyes are spawning as 4 power units from now on. So decision for Lerio, if he wants to spend any more golds here. You'd want to keep Defender, you'd want to play Candle in round 2 preferably, to carry over your Spender into round 3.
Nothing turns my guts more than a filthy mage.
He spends both Junior and Muriel, so his answers to Vanadine evaporating slowly, but other than Vanadine, there is not much Muriel's is good at in this matchup, so it's better to spend him than any other card, I guess. We see that KOB counter is at 7. Goes back into the deck, can be combined between Azar Javed and Shady Vendor, for example. Still no Vanadine or Neuromancy or Heatwave for Neverhood. He keeps Heist. Let's see what's the plan for those. He also misses on the Purify card. And we see Azar Javed getting played here for the double Defender. Of course, Defenders are not buffed without the Candle, so one of them is just getting sniped by the Archer. But if you are expecting your opponent to hitwave your Candle, I guess that's one way to protect it. And now you can protect your Scarab. Goes to 4. Efficient damage that needs to be done to it. Is there any reason to buff it more? He knows that there is a Yavin, he knows that there is a movement cards available as well. But yeah, no direct threat to it. Most likely. If you play Defender in this round, do you want to Exora immediately? Is that the game plan? And yeah, also this Defender, well, Purify can be used offensively, and Neverhood has a leader to activate it and has the Bowman on the board. Sorry. So in this position, okay, goes for, well, this is not exactly the best spender. There is no Brawler being shown from the Eventide Plunder. Double Brawler is stuck in the deck. Wait, once again, this issue. For some reason it doesn't show the first trap plate. So this is a deception. It only triggers after, well, an extra turn. So elves are coming. Do we see double spend here? We do. So no more teleportation, or teleportation to the graveyard for that Archer, Bowman. We see boxes. Cargoes getting clicked immediately for Neophyte army here, providing us with an army of elves. Exora is of course capable of dealing with multiple of those. And Neverhood is, well, considering if he wants to use the last cargo, or when he's in a position where, well, he might be in need of catching up in two cards, so you can always just rely on one of your top end elves being played and then just replayed by the cargo. Let's see what Lerio thinks of this. he can deal with a couple of neophytes if he decides to spend, and if he decides to produce more coins with Open Sesame. It would be a shame to stop the round while your opponent still has no answer to your Exora basically. So 3 neophytes, and we have the Deception flipping for 12 points. But elves would need to do some work to catch up here. Well, it's not an unsurmountable job, but still requires high provisions. So is Lerio passing after this? Or is he going... Well, he doesn't have enough coins for Exora unless he plays Cyrus and clicks Leader.
Act your age. At 2 centuries you behave like you were barely one.
Seamless is well, not playing for crazy points with only 2 waylays. There was 1 leader charge. I don't think it was roped. Yeah, luckily it wasn't 2 leader charges for Neverhood on the row, but the spectator mode provides you with that illusion of rope burning out before the last action was taken. I think he ended it a couple of seconds before. So yeah, uses 1 leader charge to stay ahead. Has a perfect board for both Vernacel and Isengrim, so we are potentially seeing an Isengrim landing here. Oh, Yavin as well. You don't have to. It might be a perfect setup, but you don't have to spend your high-end golds that are combining quite nicely in the next round. So question is, does Lerio want to risk it and try to trade? The problem with trading here is that, well, Yavin is a bandit soldier as well, so it can be teleported for extra points, and if your opponent has a bronze and high-end gold, you might be just trading for that bronze and 1 cargo token, which is suboptimal to say the least. So instead, Lerio passes. And so far, struggle. Okay, this is an improvement. There is still KOB, Acherontia, Vivaldi, and one of those 3 you kinda don't want to find. A perfect find, yes, Maxi and Oniromancy. What else would you ever, when else would you ever wish your Maxi to show up if not in round 3? Is this enough for Lerio? Well, he's the one roping the mulligan out and decides not to take it. He has Open Sesame at counter 5 in the graveyard. So yeah, since Maxi was not really welcomed at this elf party, she's getting sent back. So let's let the spending commence. 1, 2. You should never double click. 3, 4, 5, and you get the cash back, and you are dealing with Vanadine. This had to be done because otherwise he just creates another 4 points per turn. Not enough swarm possible for Neverhood, so he decides to play Vernacel back row just as a 13-point play. So Waylays are playing for 7 points both. Isengrim has in the end about 7 targets on the board. Points are equal. The problem is for Lerio that his Aventine Plunder is not exactly the most exciting card to play here. He'd most likely prefer like bank like Ronche earlier on. He spends here, his Jacques is giving him extra coins for Firesworn cards, so Devotion payoff is what we see here. So, if you're fast enough, you can do the points already. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 40 points for Neverhood and 9 coins here for Lerio plus that was well, you need this to be about 8 points, right? Has the spent on the candle. Has double spender available. So what's the best pick out of Plunder in this situation? 6 points, 7 points with the coin payoff.
I'll have you know, I'm an entrepreneur.
So nothing was erased from the board, but in the end it is a 1-point game and we congratulate Lerio on winning the series. So match number 3 of the show match between GwentDetta and Gwint Pro Polska goes for Lerio. Congratulations, and well fought for Neverhood as well. GG's to both players.